The D&D renaissance has never been stronger. The hobby has achieved mainstream acceptance thanks to YouTube and shows like Critical Role, Nerdarchy, Taken 20, and the DM Craft.
Virtual tabletops have brought gamers who are separated by states and even oceans together.
And conventions continue to bring people together, but 2020 has been a year unlike any other. A lot has gone on in the hobby, but there's some key things that have affected the game.
We're talking how the game has changed in 2020 with special guest Scott Legault this week on the Dungeon Masters Dojo.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters, as well as experienced and new players alike. We hope to bring you the tools needed to not only be a great GM, but to help you develop as a player. I'm your host, Louis Aponte. Our stars of the show are Scott Labby and Bill Robotile. Let's enter the dojo and see what both Bill and Scott have in store for us today. Hey Scott, hey Bill, how you guys doing?
Good. Today we have a special guest, Scott Legault.
I love special guests.
Yep, me too. So I met Scott about a year ago at Carnage Con in Vermont. It's a small convention, but it was a really, really, really good time. I would go as far as to say I had as much fun at Carnage Con as I did at Gen Con that year we went. So Scott was running a steampunk game with the brass and steel rule set, and I played in that game. I had a blast. And Scott afterwards told me about a con he was putting together. So after I got home, I spoke with Bill and said, let's run some games at this guy's con, and we were in. When we were talking podcast episodes for the end of the year, we wanted to discuss how things with the hobby have changed during 2020. They've changed a lot. So Scott has a lot of cool things going on related to the hobby, so we all wanted him to come on the podcast so he could tell us about these things and add his insight to how the game has changed this year.
Welcome to the dojo, Scott.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. So, it's been 2020 has definitely been an interesting year for gaming.
Yeah,
to say the least.
It's sucked everywhere else too.
I totally understand. I myself have been gaming a long time, and we had regular games in addition to the business stuff we do. And everything stopped this year. We have not done one of our major events that we do every year. Our con, we were 3 weeks out, and we had to cancel. So that was kind of a hit. So, but we'll be back. So.
And we'll be there.
Yeah, because
we'll be there.
I mean, we were chomping at the bit to go to run stuff.
Yeah.
We had everything all written. We went and bought our terrain and built some stuff, and we're ready to go, and all of a sudden it's like, giant plug got pulled, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and we both sighed and went, shit.
Well, you have to do what's right. As running a con, you have to do what's right for your customers, for your players.
Absolutely.
There was no way we could have done anything else, as sad as that was. But like I said, I think that we'll get down there. We'll get there eventually. We'll talk about that a little later, I guess. I'm seeing there.
You've got an interesting story about how you got into gaming, and actually how you met your wife too, which is pretty cool.
So I have a pretty colorful gaming past. So when I was a little kid, I was like 12 or 13. My brothers are a lot older than me, like 10 years, and I was home one night, and my brother called from college and said, hey, is Scott home? Of course I was home. I was 13 years old. And he's like, does he want to come and play a game? I'm like, play a game with my brother? Oh, my God, this is awesome. So he drove down from Providence. We lived in Mass at the time. Picked me up, and we drove out to this friend of his house out in Taunton, and everybody was dressed like wizards and things. It was wild. We played Dungeons and Dragons around a big map on a table with homemade figures at the time. I think they were, and I think I died 3 times the first night. But we killed a dragon, and I was hooked. That was it. I've been playing ever since. That's 42 years I've been gaming. So, much later in life, I met my wife at TotalCon, which is a good-sized con. It's actually one of my favorite cons to go to, and not just because I'm involved in the con. It's a really friendly, homey feeling con, and the folks that run it are just excellent people. And the first year I went there, I went with a buddy of mine, and I looked across a few tables and I saw this woman get up, and I remember she had on a burgundy top and leather pants. And I looked at my friend and said, "Oh, who's that?" And he goes, "That's my friend Petra." Well, a long story short, it's been almost 20 years, and Petra and me have been married for most of that now. So, I did meet it is possible to meet, find love at a game con. So.
I think it's a lot like trying to find a diamond, but congratulations, you did.
Yes, you did. You found a diamond in the rough.
For those people that are gaming now, there are many more women gaming now than there were back then.
Oh, yeah.
Droves of them.
Your chances are much better to meet somebody at a game con.
And they're skilled gamers too. They're not just kind of tagging along with their boyfriend, to check out his hobby. No. They know their stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, my wife is a total badass when it comes to gaming. And she runs games now, and you want to get in one of her games. She runs a good game. So
I will say I'm jealous and a little bit envious.
Me too.
Well, I appreciate that.
As am I.
So. But yeah, no, it's been great. And matter of fact, my wife and me, our life has revolved around gaming. Kids, we grew up gaming. Their friends. We have a huge network of friends ourselves that we all game with, and that kind of developed when we started Dark Phoenix Events. So my wife and I made a conscious decision as the kids were starting to get older, and we were like, oh, gee, the kids are going to be moving out in the next few years. What are we going to do? And we love the game. And we're like, well, why don't we see if we can find like-minded people who are in a similar mindset, and I don't want to say definitely age range, but closer to our level of maturity, and start a group. So we started Dark Phoenix Events with the goal of running games for people throughout New England, and where we show up with a professional GM in a game for your birthday, for your whatever party you have, or we host events as well where people can become part of those. Like we do a camping event now. We've been doing for like 7 years. It's like 35 people in the woods for a weekend. We bring our own cook, so nobody has to cook. You just show up. You play some games all weekend in the dark at night. Awesome. That's called Camping Cthulhu Con. It's all started out horror-based. It's broadened out a little bit since then. That's my favorite big event we do. We do another one called South Seas, which is at a big kind of, I call it McMansion here in Warwick. We do, that one's generally about 30 people for a weekend of gaming. We set up 5 tables or so. And they all played just like a con, do time slots. Same thing we do in the woods. I set up 5 different gaming areas, and we have pop-ups to sit over them, so there's covered from in case it rains. And we have a big eating area with a big pop-up over it. And it's just a great way to to get everyone together, and you socialize and you game, but it's more about the camaraderie of people that have a like hobby, that we can embrace and revel in, because I remember the Satanic Panic.
I think we all
I remember
do.
when being a gamer was not a good thing. And I do appreciate the mainstream media has been really good to us in the last few years, but there's some of us have always been gamers, and that hasn't always been easy. I remember fighting the school board in high school to get a gaming group in my high school.
I did the same thing.
Having to go before the school council on a committee meeting with a slideshow. So
Yeah, I went to a Catholic school, so that was like an uphill battle.
Oh no, like Scott was saying, I remember the Satanic. I still have a hard time saying I play D&D to some people because I'm wondering what they're going to still think of me when they know I play that.
Well, I say it because I enjoy the shock value, but I did then too because I was, careless.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only recently came out of the closet to the public as a gamer, because there's a stigma that was attached to it for such a long time.
For our age group, yeah.
Right.
For some people, there still is that stigma, because
Of course there is.
I'll be in the
Of course
elevator
there is.
talking with Steve, and somebody will come in and they'll give us the look, and okay, I'm changing the subject real quick because we're getting that look. But
I stopped being sorry about 7 or 8 years ago for it. This is the way I am. I've met really amazing group of people that we call our tribe. Actually, they're all really close friends. And I have a very rich life, and I think a lot of it is because of gaming. And I'm a construction worker, so people definitely think it's weird that I game, but I talk freely about it at work, and if people ask me, I don't pull any punches, and some people think it's weird, and they're entitled to that, and some people are like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. Everybody's got hobbies,
Yeah,
It's true.
But yeah, so I love gaming, and I love the fact that it is a social skill, a social thing that brings people together. I think that gaming has a huge value in education and teaching qualities to our kids today that you don't find sitting in front of a TV or sitting on your phone. Teamwork and problem solving and all this stuff that comes from gaming. I remember I took my SATs in English, and I give gaming credit for me getting a perfect score on my English SATs.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, that I would not have known had I not been a gamer. Some medieval references and things like that. So I think it's a great tool and a great hobby.
So let me ask you a question. How do you start something like Dark Phoenix events? You're doing something that I've always dreamt of doing, and that's kind of earning money on your hobby, something you're passionate about.
All right. So I'll start off by saying don't quit your day job. We meet a whole bunch of cool people, and we have a whole lot of fun gaming all over. We go all over New England pretty much. We've gamed in downtown New York City, and we've gamed in the far reaches of upstate Vermont, and everywhere in between, really. And we have about 14 or 15 GMs that work with us. So if you like, say, sci-fi, I'll send you someone that does sci-fi games. Or if you like DCC, I got a good friend of mine, Dave Clarkson, who's a DCC guy. I do Call of Cthulhu, I do Brass and Steel, I'll play 5e. You want old school stuff, we have old school folks. It depends on what you want. It's been good. I'm not going to say it's been great. COVID has taken us out behind the woodshed and beat us up. This year's a total loss, to be honest. But we'll see. It's been 5 years now. Like I said, I'm not going to quit my day job, but we have a lot of fun. And I think the money that we do make goes back into the company in one way or another, or, I get to buy a cool gaming book once in a while. But it's we love it. We love it. We were doing an event once a month in a bar in Providence called The Skew, which we hope to start back up again once COVID clears up. That was great. We're meeting a lot of new people coming in and sitting down. Mostly we played 5e. Seems to be the game of choice of people who are new to it, But I did some old school first edition stuff there. That was fun. So
that's pretty cool, because I know way back in the day I used to bounce around and game for a bunch of different groups, and depending on which group it was, I was doing Call of Cthulhu for a whole bunch of firemen on Westover Air Force Base, and I'd go in there. There'd be 16, 18 of them, and I'd go in about every 3-4 weeks or so. And
That's
just,
a big group.
yeah, it was. It was. It was fun, but it was fast and loose, and they had a blast. But then I'd go to my regular game, which at the time was second edition, and then I was with another group. Then I would jump over there, and we're playing Palladium and riffs, and so it's depending on where you go, it depends on what flavor you want to deal with at the time. So
there's something nice about it, when you I haven't really seen it anywhere else other than in the gaming community, but when you sit down at a table full of a bunch of strangers, and kind of form that instant bond around the game.
Yes,
it's a cool thing. Like, I really dug your game at Carnage Con.
Thank you.
It was fun. I felt a little shortchanged because the 4 hours felt like it was about 45 minutes, and I had to check my watch a few times. But I've had similar experiences to that where I've really enjoyed the company of other people that I've never met before. Me and Bill played a game at Gen Con with a bunch of guys in our age group, and it was one of those games too where I was like, it's 4 hours is gone.
Yeah, it flew by, and then you see these guys in the hallway, and hey, it was a head nod, but it was a smile you wouldn't get from anybody else. It's just immediate camaraderie, and it's like, hey, that is now a friend. It was only 4 hours, but that's now a friend.
Yeah, he might not remember your name, but he'll remember his experience gaming with you, and then eventually you start talking to him. Yeah, it is amazing how gaming can be such a bridge to bringing people together. It's almost like a little magical, I should say.
Yeah.
Because it is. You're right. You sit down with a bunch of strangers, and then next time you see them, they're like, "Hey, blah 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 about the game and this and that, and when's your next game?" And I get people now. I had a group that came to Necromonicon. I run games at Necromonicon every 2 years, and I had this couple come from, I think it was Canada, and they came back because they liked my game so much.
Oh, that's
cool.
And
I tell you, there's nothing more to a GM than someone telling you that they came because of you. I was floored. I was so honored.
It's very gratifying.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, for the work that you put into it, that's what really makes it worth it.
Well,
when
people
I had a
sudden
great
feeling
game.
like, holy crap, I really do know what I'm doing.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, it's a fleeting moment, but it's
all
still a moment.
Ruse. But no, I do love meeting people in game and having fun with it, and it is. I find it to be very enriching.
Well, and you're right, because the cons are everything for a while. I remember the 80s and 90s where conventions are where you went. And I was hitting between 11 and 14 conventions a year without any problem at all.
Yeah.
I was all over the place, and you see the same people over and over again, and
you do.
and then it wasn't just, hey, you played that character, the halfling. Then it became, oh, hey, Sandy, Ted, hey, good to see you guys, and and the next thing you're having dinner with them, and then hey, you going to the next con, I'll see you at the next con, and and then friendships develop, and it's amazing how like you said, it's magical how conventions can be that little nexus point that everyone can mix together.
Yep.
So,
you're right.
So speaking about cons, what about Rising Phoenix Game Con?
So Rising Phoenix Game Con was supposed to be in last March.
Yeah.
Obviously that didn't happen. We were literally like 3 weeks away from it going off. And I remember being like, all right, we need to pull the plug. We had a meeting. We have actually a pretty big directors board. There's 15 of us. And we had a meeting and we said, no, the right thing to do is to cancel. And that was so hard to do because of being our first con.
Right.
Now, I had sweet talk and cajoled, about 80 GMs. So now next time I have to do the same thing. But no, we're really looking forward to having an offering as a con a little different. The group of us who are all gamers in one way or another, in addition to some of us being business people, just not me, have taken what we've learned gaming and what we like gaming, and we wanted to deliver a con that was all about the player. Like, just come and relax and have fun, and we're going to figure out what the best way to do that and help you do that. And we had a really broad group of games that we were going to run. Everything from like old school D&D to the new horror stuff. There was such a wide variety of games that people were running. Who were really trying to touch on a bunch of bases. In addition to that, we had a full board game section going to be set up. We had a whole bunch of tournaments. We had, I think, 4 board game tournaments we were going to run. We had a whole miniature section we were going to do. We had a Star Wars Armada battle tournament, and I think the other one might have been Flames of War. And then in addition to that, we had a whole section for the kids that we were going to do. We were actually going to have on Saturday, we were going to have a live action sword fight demo for our customers to come and watch.
Cool.
We try to, so the theme of our con is really kind of a medieval kind of theme, getting back to a little LARPy feel, where the surroundings look, as much as we can in a hotel, make it look like it's a little bit like, there's buskers in the street. We were going to have a bard in the halls doing like a caller. We had a pretty big vending group. I think we had 15 vendors who were going to come.
Cool.
So we will do it again. We'll be back. And I just don't know when yet. We're actually meeting this Sunday. My guess, from what I feel and from what other people that on the group have talked, it probably definitely won't be in spring. So there's a possibility of next fall, but most likely it'll be the next year.
Right.
My whole issue with it is, I love gaming and I love sitting around a table from a bunch of people, so you can read their facial cues and you get all that little talk between everybody that you don't
the
get
nuances.
Online.
Yep.
But for me to say to a whole bunch of strangers, like, hey, let's all go sit around a table for 4 hours and talk at each other. Right now, people would think I'm crazy. So I think that we're gonna err on the side of. I think we're gonna have a vaccine soon. I hope we do, and then we'll go from there. So that's kind of where Rising Phoenix is. We're on hold. We're on a holding pattern. So the Phoenix is sort of flying, but it hasn't really risen yet.
There we go.
Well, we'll be happy to participate in that, so the DMD will gladly be there. We're looking forward to it whenever it happens.
Oh, we'll be there in force.
Well, I would love to have you guys there. I had a great time in the Brass and Steel game with you both. It was really fun. So it was a good time.
And we have something special. So, we put a lot of work into the game we were going to run. So little old school, but we're sitting on it and we're ready to go. And all we'll end up doing is just building more terrain for it.
There you go. So I had a game I was running. I ran it at TotalCon last February, right before and I was going to run it again at Archon. And it's a game called Knights of the Underbed, and you play a stuffed animal, defending your young human from the things that live under the bed.
I freaking love that.
That sounds very good.
I played
a lot of fun with that.
I went out to Salvation Army and I bought a whole bunch of stuffed animals, and I bought a whole bunch of, I bought a pirate ship and some buildings and this and that, all like play school stuff. And I set the whole table up, and we had a blast. We had a blast with it. It was fun. And I was going to run that again at Rising Phoenix. and it explains one of the problems I have with, the video stuff is I can't run that game video-wise.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't relate, so.
Just for
But
record, I call the purple octopus with one eye.
Awesome.
I'm just
we
saying.
had somebody was a dragon, and we had a cat, and somebody was a turtle. Oh, it was awesome. We had a blast.
So with that said, the pandemic, how has it affected the game? Playing, sitting at tables and together and at conventions, etc.
Yeah, it's obvious to us all that it's majorly affected conventions.
Right.
I don't think that conventions will look like they did back in February again, maybe ever, but definitely for a while. As a convention owner, you can't now go to a hotel and say, all right, I want to fill this ballroom with people, but there needs to be 6 foot space between all of them, so we're only going to use 10 tables. And we're going to put one person at each you could sit 300 and now we can sit 20.
Exactly. Yeah, it
so
doesn't make sense.
It's changed everything. So I don't know when that's going to get better, but it will. We'll beat this thing. I know we do. I know we eventually will. But it might be a little while. So that's the major effect. The major effect is basically cancel all the cons. I mean, a lot of people have gone to virtual. I myself play 4 virtual games a week. The nice thing is you can sit around in your pajamas and play. You don't have to dress up or drive anywhere. And you don't even necessarily need a camera. Some games I play are totally on Discord or something.
Yep.
But you lose a lot of the socialness of a game.
Yeah, it's almost like drinking low carb beer.
Great analogy. I love it.
It's beer, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even, alcohol-free beer.
Yeah.
So,
what's the point?
Right, But yeah, it's a sad thing. I feel that the lack of the social effect, the mechanics of the mechanics of the mechanics. There's so many systems now, the Roll20 and all, and Foundry and all these other ones now. You can make the mechanics work for your game online.
Definitely.
But you lose that connection, that human connection. I will say that I have, like I said to you guys before we started, I'm a little Dresden-like when it comes to electronics. I've been called a Luddite once or twice. But I've embraced Zoom. I run games on Zoom. I've run COC on Zoom. It's a little different. We can do it, and people have had fun. I think it loses something. It's like, I don't know how I explain it. It's kind of like you go into the movies, but you're watching over your shoulder.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Something's taken away. A lot's been taken away from the experience.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions. So you don't know the people that are online with you. They could be on their phone, having problems. I got to go take care of my kid. I got to go answer the door and get my pizza. And the whole immersion effect goes away.
And there's a lot that goes on at the table that I think sometimes people overlook or you take for granted. It's like when we get together and we game, people are bringing bags of chips or whatever have you. There's that kind of that shared community meal that happens. There's that kind of goofing around before the game starts, maybe a little bit in the middle until the DM yells at you.
It's you helping the guy next to you with the character sheet or him helping somebody else. There's all those little things, those little jokes that go around that nobody really, you know what I mean? So,
that's not translated very well in the little square in the bottom of your screen. Where you're looking at all the little people and everyone's staring at the camera because they're afraid to fall out of shot. Yeah, he's right. There's all the little nuances and little side comments and inside jokes and stuff like that all just have gone away. Not necessarily gone away, but they're just not there with the force they used to have.
It's those little things, I think, that really form the bonds,
Yes.
between different peoples and where friendship grows and camaraderie.
Exactly. That's why I think our tables stay together so long, because we had that bond.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, I probably played about 5 or 6 of my COC games I've ran online using Zoom, and I've played some with strangers. I do have a group of guys and girls that kind of game with me online. We started way back, and for the most part, it's them. But we get guests, and we had a guy from Norway playing with us, which was pretty cool for a while. Because he was on vacation, and it was 3:00 in the morning there, and it was 8:00 here. So it was funny. We'd watch the sun come up behind him in his camera, which is pretty wild. And it's been fun. It has been fun. I look at it this way: other than not gaming, it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, light beer is
thing.
still better than no beer.
Right.
Yeah. And we recently played a game with a friend of the podcast that we met at a convention, Hugerop Matthias Johansson, who does the hybrid system, and we had a great time. It was 3 in the morning.
Yeah, it was it was a blast.
Where we were like, oh my God, I had to be at work in like 4 hours. I hadn't done anything like that since I was
younger.
Yeah, since you were, mining for Stranglephone and WoW at 2 a.m.
Yeah, I've been there too.
But yeah, so there are moments of gaming online. I've got some really happy memories now. Like we killed a dragon with sneezing powder, sneezing and choking powder. That was the DM that didn't see that coming at all. That was awesome. So things like that that have been memorable. And I've met some new people virtually from different places in the world, which is kind of cool. So the group gets bigger. So we literally have about we call it our tribe. There's probably 60 of us now that kind of all know each other fairly well and hang out. And
cool.
do stuff. So.
All right. So with the rise of the online D&D, do you think people are going to go back to tabletops?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We have to go back to tabletops.
I would think so too.
It won't be called tabletop gaming anymore. It'll be online gaming. And there's the difference. So,
exactly. For all the reasons we literally just mentioned only moments earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that people long for that. I know that we do. My wife's a much more social person than I am, and she longs for that contact, just to be around other people, and in the whole social aspect of, for her, going to conventions is a social thing more than a game thing to her. It's the people and seeing people she knows and hanging out and having laughs and all of that stuff. Going to eat, and we do some after parties in our room. We have a big party, and it's all of that stuff that makes her feel good about gaming, in addition to the fact that she's a pretty badass paladin. I call her my badass warrior of light. So my wife's actually a nurse, and I tell her she's a paladin all the time, and she gets mad at me. So
that's sweet.
I have a nurse as well.
Cool. So you should tell her she's a paladin.
She's just a badass. And, it's weird. She'll understand it when I say you're a paladin, because she's been immersed in the nerd world long enough that she...
Yeah.
She's a nerd by association.
I remember when it was a bad thing to be a nerd, like I was talking earlier. We came through, and I was going to bring this up a little later. Well, actually, I'll just wait. I'll wait till we get there.
Okay. Yeah, that was my big concern is now everybody's discovering the convenience of all these online platforms and being able to play with folks that are living across the country. It's it's a hell of a lot more convenient than, driving to your buddy's house and hanging out there. But
yeah, but it's convenient to go to McDonald's and eat, but it's not the same as going to a nice fine restaurant.
Sure isn't.
There's the difference to me. There it is. I just kind of figured that out. That's the difference to me. It serves the purpose and it fills you up. but the meal wasn't that good.
But are you truly satisfied is the
Right.
question.
Sometimes
no.
you need to go to Applebee's.
No, you come to our gaming table where it's lobster bisque and filet mignon, baby.
Yeah.
But like Scott said, I've been playing online lately, but more of the with Baldur's Gate. I've been playing with some people from different areas, and it's fun at the same time. But at the same time, it's not like being here at this table with the guys here today.
No, totally different.
Yep, it is.
The other thing,
it fills a void.
It does.
It does. It fills it. You're not hungry anymore, but you're not full. So, I wanted to mention the other thing that Doc Phoenix does is we do murder mysteries, which are basically LOPs for people that don't game. So that's how we get people who don't game to attend things. We say, "Oh, it's a murder mystery," and that's another thing that we really miss. We miss all that, dressing up and getting everybody together. And we've done like a Western one, and we did a steampunk one, and we did you guys familiar with Outlander?
Yes.
Show where the girl goes back in time to the Scottish Highlands. So we did we called it Men in Kilts, but we did one like that, and there was a couple of 1950s women roaming around and it was a murder mystery. So, but yeah, we miss doing that, and along with those, we would do like talking about food, made me think of it. We would do themed dinners. So like the Westin had real food that was around back then, and so my goal, I'd really like to do the Red Wedding as a murder mystery. So maybe some person doesn't get murdered. So
Instead of figuring out who got murdered, trying to figure out who's going to live.
Right. But yeah, that was just a little aside. But I thought the food thing brought it up to me. So.
Yeah, I was my nurse. I'm not going to say she has made me watch Outlander, but I sit and watch a lot of nerdy YouTube videos, and she suffers in relative silence. So it's payback. It's payback. It's just something I have to do, and I do remind her that Scotsmen back then were not that clean, that pretty.
No.
And she says, "I don't care. This one is." So
yeah, my wife's of like mind, I think. So
all I know is I'm wearing a kilt next time I go over to Scott's house. I own 2 of them, so
yeah. I actually own one as well. So.
Yes, Clan McDuff myself. You?
Well, my name's Scott, so I was a Scotsman. I don't remember the character I was in the murder mystery, to be honest with you. Now. I think it was Clan McKellen or something. But yeah, we miss that too. We miss all the events that we do on the side, through Doc Phoenix that we can't do anymore. Which there was several every year. But we'll get back to it. We will. I have faith.
Oh yeah.
Scott, let's ask your opinion on this: the race debates that are raging now with D&D.
Yeah. All right. So I'll first of all say I'm of 2 minds. Okay. I fully support Black Lives Matters. But I feel that gaming is, it's a fantasy. If you didn't have, let's first of all say this is talking about the racial bonuses. I think they help define things that don't really exist to us. Dwarfs are short and they're strong and they're tough to kill. That's something that's made up. We don't really have any dwarfs digging in the mountains. We don't really have any elves hiding in the woods. However, I think taking away those modifiers changes the balance of the game. If you go back to first edition, certain races could only be certain levels in certain things.
Correct.
You couldn't think be over like 7th level as an elf in something or other. And I think they do it to that's part of the balance of the game. Okay. On the other hand, I actually made some notes because I know this is going to be. The other thing is in the game, there are races that are inherently evil. Has nothing to do with color they are. It's nothing. It's a made up thing for the game. Without those, who are you going to fight?
You can't have good without evil.
You can't have good without evil, and you can't triumph over evil without there being some evil to triumph over.
There has to be adversaries.
Right. So they could have solved the whole issue if they changed the word races to species.
That's my exact feeling on it, because that's
so,
what they are.
Yeah.
Like a half elf is really like a donkey. All right, it's two different species, but they can, for some reason, mate. So, that's kind of my opinion. I think that the differences are written into the game not because it's racist. I think the differences are written into the game because it gives you the ability to say this thing that I don't understand and I have no idea what it is. I want to play this because it's strong, or I want to play this because it's fast, or I want to play this because it's smart.
It allows you to distinguish diversity.
Yeah. And I wanted to say, I come up with this thought, and I wanted to just, so gamers have been fighting the battle against prejudice and discrimination for a long time, in general.
Yes.
Like a half a century.
Why do you want to fight that battle in your game?
Right.
I mean, I definitely believe, like in my home campaign, there are races that dog the characters constantly and cause strife in the world. They're evil races. Like the drow in my home campaign are bad. They're bad.
Right.
There's no real good ones. You can't play a drow in my home game. And I use them just like in COC. I use most of my COC games use Nazis. They were convenient. It's perfect time period, 1940s, 30s to 40s. A lot of my games are set during the war, and they were terrible. And they delved into a cult. They really did. So it ties into COC very well. And you know what? Nazis are bad. So I don't feel any bad about saying that.
And I don't think there's anybody that'll disagree with that either. That's one of those things where it's like, you know what? Yeah, they did some awful things.
Bad.
They were bad.
Yeah. And they still are. Okay.
Yeah.
Beside the point, to say that drows because they're dark skinned is an analogy for black people, that's a terrible thing to say. I've been gaming for 42 years. And before someone said that to me, I never ever equated drow to black people.
I'm with you. I've been gaming for 50 years and same thing. I didn't see the correlation. And someone mentioned it, and I went, what are you talking about? Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, agree.
Some people have to have something to say about everything. And we have to remember that it's a fantasy game. You need bad things to fight, or you can't triumph over them. Just because something's a certain color, isn't it racist of you to assume it's meant for something else?
Well put.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing. I think they should have just left it alone, and if it was really bothering them that much, they could have changed the word race to species, and it would have solved everything.
Yeah, and I think a mere change of terminology would have done just that. I think I look back to growing up, and my gaming table was probably my very first experience with a lot of diversity, because none of us really cared. It was like the game that kind of brought us together. So it didn't matter what your skin color was, or your ethnicity, or religion, or even sexual preference. I mean, and back in the 80s, that was a huge thing. Nobody really cared as long as you were cool to hang out with at the gaming table.
Yep. Because you know what? Because there weren't that many people that would admit they gamed. And so the ones you got, you held on to.
Yeah.
So, I do believe that my one thing to say to all the gamers out there that are listening, find a way to game. That's the key. Whether it's on video, or you pick up your phone and you call somebody, or years ago I actually did a squad leader game by mail. Talk about hellish. But however you do it, still game, because it's fulfilling no matter which way you do it. maybe the sandwich is bologna instead of roast beef, but do it anyways because you won't regret eating it. I will say that keep watching for Rising Phoenix. We will rise again. Yeah, I should say because we didn't really rise, but we will be back, and we look forward to seeing you guys there, and we look forward to anyone who's listening. We welcome you with open arms to come and game with us when we can, and we won't do that until it's safe.
And that's this week's episode on how the game has changed in 2020. You can find Scott Legault on Dark Phoenix Events over at www.darkphoenixevents.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Dark Phoenix Events. Also check out Rising Phoenix GameCon at www.risingphoenixgamecon.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/RPGConNE. Go check them out. Scott, again, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you very much.
Guys, have a good night.
That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.